Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with James E. Turner with us today. He's founder and conversion copywriter at Turner Creative and also co-owner and conversion copywriter at Snap Copy. He's been a musician for the past 28 years and he's been running a podcast as well back in the days. Very interesting guy, traveled the world, etc., etc. So we're gonna get into it, and I'm excited about it. This podcast is brought by PodTube. Is brought to you by you. Blah blah blah. It's brought to you by podfire.com. And that was a first brain lag in a lot of time. So thank you, brain. Maybe more caffeine there. Podfire.com is my agency, my podcasting agency. What we do, we help you grow an audience. We help you meet new people, learn from these people, grow a community, and get sales, get leads from podcasts, monetize them, get sponsors, and also get invited to other podcasts that we have carefully selected for you. So if you're a big believer like me and James in podcasting, go to podfire.com and who knows, I might be able to help you out with your pod. James, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about your companies?
Certainly. Hey, Charles. Thanks for having me. You know what? I want to start with my podcast because I think it's kind of funny. I had this podcast with my graphic designer friend, and it was called the Copy and Design Brew. And the thing was we drank craft beer and talked about freelance copy and design. That was the whole thing. That was it. And when we had guests on, we would say like, hey, buy a local craft beer where you are. And people loved it. It was like,
Craft beer. I didn't even know that existed. Craft beer.
Small
Okay.
brewery,
You
small
mean like,
batch.
okay. I get that. I
Yeah.
thought you meant like Craft the brand. They had a beer and I was
I
like, that
see.
must be a cheap ass beer. But
No.
yeah, like in Canada, we're lucky for that, especially in Quebec. There's a lot of microbrasserie, and yeah, where we love beer there in Canada
Yeah.
too, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, we ran it for a couple of years and people really enjoyed it. And then I stopped drinking and he stopped freelancing and we had nothing left to talk about.
Why'd you stop drinking?
Clarity, age. I kind of just like got bored of it. I always thought there'd be some big dramatic thing that led to the end of my partying days, but it really just kind of fizzled out. I was like, stopped being
The
fun.
next
Once you
day
have
just
kids,
sucks when you drink. That's, I mean, I think I maxed it out at around 19. I was like binge drinking pretty much all the time when I was younger. So I'm glad I got rid of that. And, it just, as a biohacker with all that data, you get to make decisions about your diet, about even caffeine, for example, and feel I reach an equilibrium. For example, my philosophy on drinking, I'm just not attracted to it. I know that my wedding is coming in 7 days and I'm gonna have a drink. But yeah, it's like I'm not excited about it because I know that I'm a long-term guy, and the next day is not gonna be cool if you party too much. So, and also when it becomes a habit, right? Like when you drink every Friday, oh, it's Friday, I'm gonna have my little drink, like my itsy pooey drink, like Jim Leahy would have in Trailer Park Boys, my favorite teleseries. Well, it just wears off on you, right? Alcohol theoretically is a poison.
Yeah. Just at the end of the day, that's it. Yeah.
And the
And
musician,
I think being a founder, being like running your own business, every piece of lost productivity is like directly negatively affecting your life. Like if you're
right?
working for someone else and you're kind of like sluggish, it's their ultimately
Yeah,
their problem at some level.
there you go. I remembered, yeah, in that time that I was binge drinking as a teenager. If you want, I would work at this golf course, and it's like, yeah, who cares if I'm hangover? I'm just gonna work here and they pay me for my time, So, but nowadays as an entrepreneur, yeah, directly affecting. And I also remember as a student trying to work when I was high on weeds, and that would never work. You lose your focus. So the drug of choice for this productivity and professional world is definitely caffeine. Is it for you?
I just having a coffee as we speak. Yes.
Same here. We're
It's the
coffee
only vice I
brothers.
have left.
I'm having cold coffee since 2 or 3 days. And I wrote
Nice.
very poetically that cold coffee is transactional. Did you like
I
that?
like it. I do
Yeah.
like that. Yep. It's definitely transactional.
So let's talk
Maybe.
about your career. Um,
Yeah,
a part of it at least. So
for
Scotiabank,
sure.
maybe that was boring. But yeah, I spent 8 years there. Then you decided to travel to Japan and travel the world.
Mm.
That part starts to be interesting. Why did you decided to do that? Were you like, yeah, I'm tired of working at this bank, and I'm just gonna explore the world now. I have cash and
Yeah,
I can go wherever I want.
kind of. It was something that a lot of my friends did, but I never felt myself like in the position to do. It actually kind of sparked when I met my wife in Toronto. It was something that she'd always wanted to do and I'd always wanted to do, and neither of us felt like we could do it for whatever reason. And then with each other, we were able to give ourselves the permission to do it. So we actually got married and then moved to Japan. So it was kind of like, it felt like a gigantic honeymoon. We lived there for 3.5 years teaching English.
Ben
And
is
yeah, the bank
fascinating.
thing, I got the bank job. I've done this weird flip flop in my life. Like in high school, I was really good at English. And then I was like, I'm never writing another essay again. I'm going into business. So I went into business for a couple of years and then I hated it. And then my roommate was in philosophy and English. And then I ended up switching to the English department and then I loved it again. And then by the time I graduated, I was just done with the kind of like all sorts of things like that. But I had this sort of ping pong between the arts and business through my whole life. Um,
And why
and
Japan?
why Japan? I don't know. Just it just is a fascinating culture. It seems like so the same as us in some ways and so different. Um, and yet sort of how to say it, like a modern enough society that I could see myself there. There were like other friends went to like Indonesia, and that seems like a very different proposition. Like great, but so different. Like it was too different for me. So Japan was just the right amount of different, just far enough away. Just you know, yeah, I'm not 100% sure to be
Well,
honest,
some
but
kind of ikigai between culture shock and modern human civilization. Was
mm,
asking myself, does Japanese culture have some American culture in them? I mean, the whole world does, but for
well,
example, here in
yeah.
Mexico, we see a fascination with the Japanese culture. But
Mm,
obviously, the American culture, I think, is in the back end of everything because they created pretty much everything that's around us,
yeah,
or
yeah.
let's
There's a
call it
lot of
Western civs, quote unquote.
I think that the Japanese as a people were really good at synthesizing ideas from overseas and making them their own. So like they've taken this idea that looks familiar to you, but they don't really they aren't purists. They don't care uh, how similar to the original it is. They've just like taken it and run with it, and then it's like a completely new thing that looks similar, but to them is uniquely theirs. That's kind of my impression from having lived in Japan. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
And I
it's
feel, it's also because you can travel in some places in the world like Indonesia that it's like still in development, still kind of ghetto.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
In Japan, they don't really have that. It's like an Asian Canada. Everything is clean and modern and all of that. Or should I say it, some kind of New Zealand would probably a bit more accurate, but yeah,
yeah, I get
there
what you
were
mean.
probably that as well. Uh, then you turn to, well, before we talk about entrepreneurship, tell me about the music side of you. Like, why did you get
Mm,
into music, and how do you mix music and entrepreneurship nowadays?
great questions. Um, I mean, I got into music because of Nirvana. That was like, I remember the first time I heard the song "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on the radio in my parents' car when like my mom was driving it. I kind of brought my whole family along for the Nirvana ride. I was like 13, something like that, maybe 14 when Kurt Cobain died. Um, and that's it. Like when I got a guitar so I could play Nirvana songs. That's like truly what like some people it's kind of like unambiguous. It's ambiguous, but for me it's completely like 1-to-1. Like I heard the song, I wanted to play it, I decided to get a guitar. Like So, and then I just started writing, I guess, pretty much right away. So I've been writing songs more than like for longer than I've been writing anything else. So, um, yeah. And as for, I've been in a couple of bands. I was in a band in Japan. That was like one of the best parts of being in Japan. When I think back on it, was this band, all of expat teachers like myself. Um, we put on shows in Nagoya. It was great. We got to meet local musicians, and like some of my best friends there are still the bands we played with. So a very cool way to integrate yourself with the culture. And I'm not in a band currently. I have aspirations to figure out what the band of my 40s will be. I had one in my 20s, one in my 30s, one in my teens. So I've got like a track record of one band per decade. But how I work it into my life now is I find that it's a great connector meeting new people. Like, um, I have my guitar on the wall behind me. It's not just a prop. Like I put it there so I don't forget to play guitar because I see it every day. But then, of course, if I'm ever on a Zoom call, people see the guitar, and if they also play guitar, it sparks a conversation and connects with people. So, um, yeah, I kind of just I don't want to lose that part of myself. So I just wear it on my sleeve and think about it.
And then podcasting, that was somewhat related to music, a microphone, a voice,
Yeah,
an interaction between two human beings. How did that go for you?
it was great. Yeah. My friend wanted to start, like I had started my business and he was thinking of starting a business, and he was asking me all these questions, and then we were like, this could be a podcast. So we decided to formalize our discussions, and just like that was why we were drinking the beer, and we were just chatting about, he would at the first like 12 episodes are just him asking me questions and me answering my experience a few months ahead of him, like not a huge amount of experience. And yeah, it totally fed into that like creating albums feeling. Like yeah, I really like the editing too. I did all of my own editing. I enjoyed playing with GarageBand is what we used to record it. I actually used music from my band for our intro music. I like cut up one of our songs, took out the vocals so that it could be a little, snappy intro music and stuff. So I really enjoyed it.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Your agency, copywriting, do you feel that will be replaced by AI?
Not really. I found it not too hard to sort of conceptualize myself in an age of AI, because what I really like to do is take people's nearly finished stuff and make it perfect. And I feel like that is still a completely viable job. How the people arrive at their shitty first draft or second draft or whatever is kind of immaterial. So I think that AI will help. I really like to work with small business owners, especially. So people who don't have a marketing team, or they are the one person marketing team. So they've got lots of different things on the go. And then if I can help them really polish those like crucial assets, or email, I'm trying to do I'm currently validating a service of like a monthly subscription for email support, where it's like unlimited email. Like you just send me where your email is, and I send it back at the next step. Whether that's like, well, you send me bullets, I send you back a first draft. You send me a first draft, I send you back a final draft, whatever. Just move it one step forward, and you can send the same email. Like once you get it back, you can send it back again. So it's like unlimited revisions or new pieces or whatever within a month for a fixed fee. And I feel like that really, like, I envision a future where people are sending me like, they've prompted AI, it's given them this thing, but they don't feel like confident to just publish it live as is. So they want like a second set of eyes, or they want like another human to look at it and be like, yeah, that makes sense. There's nothing weird here. So if anything, I think AI kind of like opens more doors for me, because I feel that now more people will be confident to even have those first drafts in the first place. Like people who previously have thought, I can't do it. I can't send a newsletter, or I can't, update my own site. Now they're like, yeah, I can, but I'd love to have someone just like look it over. and I want to be that guy. So
The thesis probably being that 0.1% copywriters will never go away. If you're the cream of the crop, you can be creative with words, invent words, and mix up things like no one else can. If you have that magic, that human magic. I'm looking at Snap as well, and looking at the credit systems there. Don't you feel that these credits, they confuse the mind for you to make more money?
Maybe I don't know. We've the funny part is the only people who question the Snap system, like the credit system, are people who aren't clients. Now I know that there's people who never were clients because they're like, what the hell is this credit system? Screw you guys. But the people who are clients, it makes sense. It makes sense. The idea of
But
the credits is
yeah,
that people can buy in advance, right? And then they just use them when they need them. So it's like a blend between a retainer and project based.
yeah, because the classic model has been hourly, which is the worst. As
The
an
worst for
entrepreneur, you
sure.
you never
Mm-hmm.
want to sell your time. And I
Yeah.
guess the evolution of that would be packages, right? So me,
Mm-hmm.
my coaching packages, it's 1.5K a month. We meet 4 times a month, 15 minutes. So theoretically, I'd be valuing my time here at 1.5K an hour. It's not the 10K that I'd like to, but it's still valuable. And but still, I don't want to sell my time. It's not scalable, but I would argue that I'm learning from my clients, so it's not just being
Yeah.
paid. It's me having experience, using them as testimonials as well, learning on the
Mm-hmm.
fly, testing for them. I have a whole ecosystem that can thrive around that coaching time if you want. And then what
Nice.
would be the evolution of pricing pack? Well, I mean, there's the SaaS model that, subscription. Every month you pay me this. So that's satisfying because you know that there's cash that's coming. People commit for sometimes. Credits,
Mm-hmm.
I feel they can be valuable. I mean, that's how OpenAI works. And the usage,
Yeah.
the per usage sort of. But I feel it can be confusing for the consumer, like what might paid for. I guess the ideal model, and who knows if there's a fintech doing that, it will be pure ROI, like, oh, you hire me, and then you have this machine that calculates my pure ROI on your efforts, because that's the goal in business, to make cash back off your investments. Whatever you invest in, obviously there's going to be some ROI that's going to be down the line, very long time down the line. But what do you think
Mm-hmm.
about that model?
An ROI. Well, I think you hit on it right there. Some of it's a long way down the line. And I think that discounting everything that's not short-term measurable is probably not like a good idea in the long term. So I feel like I get why people want performance based things, and there's certainly a time and a place, I think, like, but I also think that there's sort of unmeasurable things that still matter, that if you, yeah, I guess as long as you can hold both thoughts, as long as you can at once have some parts of your business that you are like extremely vigilant about measuring, and then allow yourself the mental space to also in some areas not need to measure um, the effects in order for it to be justified. Like, I think about that in terms especially of brand, like brand voice kind of stuff. Like if over time you're consistently a certain way and people are used to impersonal businesses, but then you're like consistently like more personal and more, humorous, say, like that's a good example, then people will over time gravitate towards you because you're like something to be relied upon. Like, I know that'll be a good time, or I know, like, what do they have to say about X or Y? And at some point down the road, them being drawn back to you will put them in the right place at the right time to want to buy what you're offering. But it'd be really hard to like measure the ROI of that if it's something that is over 2, 3, 4 years. And
It will. I mean, the machine doesn't move, right? So it can stay there for quite a while. But yeah, there's the ripple effects and calculating all the stuff that was caused by stuff that was caused by stuff. So it
that's
never
right. Yeah.
basically ends. So we need like a full backend of zeros and ones to this full world. Digitally is not that complex, but yeah, it can get complex in anything that's related to this real world. What are your top 3 goals for this year, James?
Well, right now I'm growing. I have a daily email. That's my main favorite thing that I'm doing right now. Week daily. I started out full on daily, Saturdays and Sundays as well. I've stepped it back for my just basically for my own purposes. But yeah, it's short, under 250 words, often funny, not always actionable, not always business. Sometimes like it's just really personal. But it's my goal is to make that the mainstay of my writing habit. Like I really enjoy the feeling of creation, and so yeah, my sort of number one thing right now is growing that. My number two thing right now is this monthly subscription, unlimited edits. I think I'm gonna probably try it out at $1,000 a month. So I haven't got a page up for that right now. It's just a sort of casual offer. So I've emailed some people and trying to gauge interest to see if there's enough of a market for it. So that's another thing, is kind of putting myself out there more than I have in a while. And my stretch goal is I actually want to get another podcast up and running. I've had it in the back burner for a while, called Away from the Desk, and just talking to founders about anything other than their business. I don't know. I feel like it might be a good get because people are taken like by surprise, because usually everyone wants to talk to them about this one part of their life, and then I want to talk to them about the other stuff. So that's what I find most interesting, really, for me personally.
Cool. And where can people find out more about you?
The best place is turnercreative.ca. My last name, Turner, plus the word creative.ca. Everything I talked about is linked to on there. And then otherwise, onecreativemoment.ca is my daily email list sign up.
I'm Charles Cormier. That was another founder at wisdompodcast.com with James Turner.